Man, this is fantastic. This is like it's what's really cool for me to see, and selfishly as well, is to hear the stuff that you're doing is kind of stuff that I'm doing naturally. Hey guys, welcome to our group in this live. I'm really pumped for this one. It's something that I really like talking about and something that's really a big passion of mine as well. So just so you all know as well, like as I was just saying to Killian, forgive this atrocity of artwork. I'm in a holiday rental place. I've been having to say this ever since I moved to this setup. I don't know what they were thinking, but anyway, let's jump into it. So Killian works with agency owners and helping them achieve, peak levels of energy and performance. It is something that I think is absolutely vital. When you're starting an agency, you're always thinking of tactics and strategies and this and that. How do I grow? But you really neglect the most important part, which is your health and your ability to perform each day. And I know I did. Sleep suffered. We've talked about that before. So yeah, really pumped for this one. But before we get into it, for people who don't know, just intro yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we want to get into some backstory as well. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Jason, super happy to be on the show. Thanks for having me. And a bit of background, as you were asking. So I'm German myself, but living in Budapest in Hungary, so in Europe based right now. And one thing I've always noticed, and I'll tell you a backstory in a second, is that a lot of people, they know about peak performance, right? They know about high performance, about all this stuff like, they read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People or Brendon Burchard's high performance habits. And they know kind of, right, what's good habits and so forth. And there's a lot of other coaches out there in the space as well who help you achieve peak performance and so on. But I found over the years of working with agency owners, business owners, that there's a missing link, and that's the consistency piece. A lot of people, they know kind of what they should be doing, be it for the business, right? Outreach and those processes and so forth, but also for their personal life. Hey, sleep, diet, exercise, take some rest of, like have good habits, have good routines, morning routine and so on. But somehow there's this invisible force pulling them away and they cannot stick to it. The consistency is missing. Discipline is not there. And that's where I found myself, hey, I asked once, that was a funny story. You probably know Sam Ovens, and in his course, he tells, hey, you should ask your network, what's the one thing what are a few things you're good at, a few things you can improve, and what's the one thing you're absolutely best at? And I asked my friends, and they all said, man, you're so consistent. And I'm like, that's interesting. There's something, right? Like they associate consistency with me. And I'm like, okay, that's something where I said, that's actually a missing link in the entrepreneurial journey. That you say, hey, you want to have productivity, performance, but you want to have that here, like consistency, consistent performance. And that's where it got me started. And my backstory is this. I finished university. I studied international business. And then I worked actually at a big multinational company in Germany. And I thought like, that's going to be it. Thought that's like the main thing for me. And but I realized while I was working there, that's not at all my thing. And it's like, I wanted to realize I want to do my own thing. And then I basically had this realization that was just an internship back then. And then I actually worked in a marketing agency as well during my studies. And that was good. But in there, I had this trigger point that I saw all these people working there. They had no time for anything else. They spent most of their day at work, and they really, their health was sometimes suffering as well, right? You could see that. And so this was a trigger point for me that I was wanting to figure out, how can you crush it in your job, in business, in entrepreneurship, grow an agency or work in an agency that's doing well, but at the same time, make sure that you're not neglecting yourself, that you're keeping good energy and don't burn out along the way, right? So that's my backstory. Then I got started with coaching, worked with lots of agency owners along the way, improved my offering, improved my program. It's been a few years now. And that's what I found along the way, man.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. And like, what specifically, I kind of wanted to understand this as well, is What specifically about agency owners? Like, why them specifically do you think that you can help them?
That's a funny point, man. And it's so, to be honest, I can also help guys who work in e-commerce.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, right. It's like I can help them as well.
Yeah.
But the question is, who are you most confident that you can get the result that you promise? And for me, I mean, it's been, I had agency owners as client, like 80-90% most of the time were agency owners. A few guys, they joined, they said, oh yeah, e-commerce business and so forth. It's also possible I can help them as well. But the thing is this, I talked with a friend about this, and there's something to agency owners that people who chose a different industry maybe don't have, or that unifies agency owners. And if you ask yourself, hey, why do people become agency owners? And they have something in common. And if you look at the history of people who promote agencies like Ty Lopez or Alex Becker and so on, these are all people who value similar things. They value personal development, they value personal growth and so forth. And so that's already awesome, because I want to work with people who want to improve, have a growth mindset. And then the second thing is, of course, the nature of your agency dictates, especially that you have, it just makes you have a lot of responsibilities. Like you need to juggle so many parts of the business, right? The fulfillment side of things, like the marketing, the sales, the operations, everything is just so much stuff. And it's like so easy to get overwhelmed with that. So agency owners, I think, struggle with that specifically. And that's why they really benefit from trying to keep consistency in all of those areas to not burn out while they do that.
Yeah. So the kind of the reason you got into the agency was, well, I guess like, and I really like your point, is that it's that certain type of person who's already committed to their business and they have so much going on. So I guess if you are an agency owner watching, like, you need to smile about that, like, you know, that we do have so much and you're already so committed. So I think that that's really cool. That's really cool. I didn't know that about you. Now, with a high performance side of things and consistency, all of that, like, I want to get into some specifics and maybe some tactics as well. Like, I would love to talk about this sort of thing, but just as an overarching principle, like, what would you say is the most important thing for people to be doing to like get better with this stuff, to have better performance, to have better energy? Like, what would you say with that?
Yeah, the most fundamental thing is this: you need to learn how to build better habits. There's this common misconception out there where people say, hey, just do it, right? Just do it, man. Why don't you show up and just do it? Like, you know, like, why don't you exercise every day? You gotta do it. If there's a distraction, you gotta push through and put the distraction away and just do it. But the thing is this, man, it's not going to work long term. There's a great book about this which says Willpower Doesn't Work by Benjamin Hardy. He talks about this research being done that long term you cannot just make yourself do stuff. You have to have a system where environment works in your favor, where you have a solid approach how to build habits, which are processes and systems in your, or procedures in your business, and habits and routines in your personal life. And that's something which people get wrong. And it's like everybody talks about discipline. Hey, just become disciplined and you achieve everything you want. Someone says discipline is the tools of the masters. Cool, we know discipline is important. But who teaches you how to become disciplined? Sam sometimes says, yeah, man, just do it. Like, you know, like just relentless, just do it. And if it was that easy, everybody would be crushing it. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's not that easy, right? And so the biggest shift comes when you realize discipline is not something you do, but discipline is a byproduct. Discipline is something which just happens while you build great habits that are in line with the type of person you want to become. So let me say that again. Yeah. You try to ask yourself, who's the kind of person who would be easily accomplishing all the goals in my business and also all the goals I have in my personal areas? And then you ask yourself, what habits would that person have made smooth or an easy part of their everyday life. And then you approach that with a systematic approach. You step by step build good habits. You design your environment to make it easy to build those steps, and to step by step also start to believe and shift your self-image that you're becoming this person. And then suddenly, once you're consistent with the things that you say, you become this kind of person. You start to call yourself, hey, I just reach out to people. I am someone who, does outreaches. It's like totally normal for me. I don't even question that anymore. I am someone who is convinced about my business. I have to do reach outs consistently, right? That's like I am a kind of person. That's the ultimate level of consistency. Same thing. I am an athlete. I am someone who goes to the gym. So it's no question to not do it, because you're suddenly becoming that person. And how do you become that person? By building small habits that you start to believe, hey, I worked out a few times last week. It's getting more consistent now. Actually, I am a healthy person, right? I am getting better with this. And then you, as a byproduct, say, hey, this person is disciplined. It's like with a pro athlete, right? You wouldn't say, oh, this person has to discipline themselves and force themselves all day to work out. No, they just, dude, I'm a pro athlete. I'm training for the Olympics. What do you think I'm doing? Of course I'm working out if I want or not, right? It's part of who they are. And so that's the shift, that discipline and consistency in your life and in your business doesn't come from you forcing it, but actually for being smart about it, asking yourself, hey, who do I want to become? And then building the right habits, designing the environment. And then you're going to have much higher chances of succeeding with that.
Wow. That's so big. And it's so important. There's so many things I want to ask with that. So let me start with something that you said before, with like the discipline habits balance. So you trying to phrase this the right way. With discipline, is that really like what comes first, like discipline or habits? Like what comes first with that?
Habits, 100%. Habits. Look, the thing is this: there's a difference between disciplining yourself and discipline. Discipline, I mean, people, we can talk semantics and people interpret things differently, but that's how I see it. And that's how most of my clients understand it the best way. Disciplining yourself is, hey, let's push through. Let's not eat the cookie. Let's push myself to do something I want to do or have to do, or avoid the thing I don't want to do or shouldn't do. And this stuff doesn't work long term, right? And the thing is, however, you want to make sure that you build habits which then help you to get the discipline. Yeah. And look, the way it works is this. I like to explain it 4 levels of consistency. 4 levels of consistency. It's very, very, very easy to explain that concept. Number 1, willpower motivation. Lowest level of consistency. Helps you every now and then, push through, but not very consistent. Works every now and then. Second one, disciplining yourself. Your start, that's actually where a lot of people are getting better at it. Hey, let's do that cold shower every morning. Let's force it, right? You somehow actually train your prefrontal cortex. You get better because you do it more often. Problem is, it will not be sustainable long-term because it's not a habit yet. You're still relying on forcing yourself and your willpower reserves. Number 2. Number 3, habits. This is now where you're building a routine and a sequence of habits and batch them together. And suddenly over time, you're building a neural pathway in your brain. And then over a period of a few weeks, when you're really consistent with that, it will become a strong habit. Of course, the key for that is build a strong environment that supports it and so on. And then number 4, identity. Even more consistent than the habit side of things is, once the habit is so consistent, you do it over months, over years, and at some point it turns into your identity. You say, I am that kind of person, right? And then at that stage, people look at this person and say, wow, he's so disciplined. How does he push himself all the time? No, he doesn't push himself anymore. He doesn't do it. It's like he built the strong habits who turn into his identity, and then he's like super disciplined with that. So I think that kind of progression, these stages of consistency, I think they explain it very well.
I think that's the perfect way to explain it. And I would agree. And like, just touching on a couple of points there is the first one on the willpower side of things. Would you agree that like willpower is like a muscle? Like the more you work it, it gets tighter and tighter. It's like picking shirts at the start of the day will affect you later in the day making decisions. Would you agree with that?
For sure, there's research on this where they talk about decision fatigue, and basically that you have certain decisions will kind of, empty your reserves. There's also new research coming out that it depends on the personality, and it also depends on your mindset, right? It depends a little bit on your mindset. If you're someone who thinks, hey, I can actually be more consistent and I can also make smart decisions, that's actually helpful to prolong the willpower reserves for some time. So there's actually new research coming out on this, which is interesting. But with that being said, you don't have unlimited reserves of willpower. And that's why it's also smart to ask yourself, hey, what do I do? What time in the day? Making use of the highest reserves of willpower for the high leverage stuff. And then also, what decisions do I not even need to make? And should I eliminate or delegate because they are not necessary at all? Because if you look at guys like, if you look at Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs, they wear always the same clothes, man, because they didn't want to spend their creativity or willpower on choosing different kind of clothes. So that's just an example for that.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. And I think that a lot of people are starting to go down that path of not having to worry about, those decisions and stuff like that. So really the fundamentals is like, I want to get into that identity. I definitely want to get to there, but let's start with the habits then. So what are the steps, if you will? I know there's about 70 million steps, but what are things people can start doing to build those habits, like to build the right habits? And I don't want to dive in on that, the right habits, the wrong habits, but what are the steps for people to build habits? What does that look like?
Yeah, first of all, I actually think the question is a valid one to ask. What are the right habits? Because there are a few habits which definitely everybody should have in place. And the key pillars here are things that help you with energy and also are related to your health. Health and energy is one thing. And for business owners, very relevant and interesting is everything related to productivity as well. So let's start with the first pillar, energy and health. What everybody should have, because it's non-negotiable, is having habits that support your sleep, right? So if you're not getting good sleep during the night and you're starting with that, that's probably one of the first things to fix. You can have all the strategies in your business, but if you wake up and you crash during the day, you will not operate at your highest and you will make the wrong decision. So habits for sleep, we can talk in a second also what that would look like. Then habits also for your nutrition. So putting the right fuel in your body, you don't have brain fog, long-term no deficiencies. So you're not suddenly feeling groggy because your body is lacking some important nutrients. Also avoiding blood sugar spikes, which make you crash in the afternoon. So that's important for the right nutrition. And then exercise and also movement. It's not only working out a few times per day per week in the gym, but it's also moving a lot during the day. Super important to regulate your attention, your focus, and make sure that you're staying sharp throughout the day. Okay, so these main pillars are the most important ones. And then one clear or one easy thing to get started with how to build a good habit is two things. Number one, you want to ask yourself, how can I make this habit the path of least resistance? The thing I want to do. You ask yourself, like, maybe it's this idea of designing for optimal defaults, which means you're designing your environment in such a way that the thing you want to do is easy and the thing that you don't want to do is difficult. That's the easiest thing. You ask yourself, okay, I want to meditate. Okay, so how do I meditate now? How can I make this easier on myself? Well, maybe you need to define where you're going to meditate. Maybe you should have a little pillow laying there, which is your meditation spot. Maybe you should ask yourself, hey, what am I going to do to make it easier? Maybe you get a guided meditation like an app, right? And this is the first questions. And then a nugget for you guys, use implementation intentions. James Clear talks about this as well in Atomic Habits. And the idea is you need to define what triggers your habits. And if this, then that, which means after I do this, then I do that. And that's easy for your brain to do things. For example, after I come out of the shower in the morning, I walk to my meditation spot in my office or wherever it is and meditate for 5 minutes. Very clear, very defined. It's not like, yeah, let me meditate today. But then again, you have to think about it when you're going to meditate. There is no plan behind it and you're relying on willpower. It's not going to happen. So you need a clear plan for those most important habits. You set that up once, you create some awesome routines, and then it's much easier to stick to those. And the second nugget I want to give you guys, you hardly can control what happens during the day, right? There's a lot of chaos, a lot of things happening, like messages, fires here and there. But start with your mornings and start with your evenings. These are the times usually where you have some time for prioritizing yourself, basically. And that means the first hour or so after waking up, that's where you can put in a few things that help you get the day started in the right way. For example, hey, what do I want to get started to work on? What are my goals for today? You can already do that the day before, but if not, do it in the morning. Instead of jumping into your phone, why don't you write down, hey, what are the 3 things I want to accomplish? And what are the things I should be doing first instead of jumping into distractions? And the same thing for the evenings, right? Making sure you have a few habits in place for relaxation, for optimizing your sleep, for making sure you're also winding down, letting go of distracting thoughts, obsessing over business the whole time. And that's what I would say. So to summarize, environment, implementation intention, starting with evenings and mornings, the easiest way to make changes, and then progressing that throughout the whole day.
Man, this is fantastic. This is like, it's what's really cool for me to see, and selfishly as well, is to hear the stuff that you're doing is kind of stuff that I'm doing naturally. For me, when building habits, one thing that I really like to do is if I need to build a new habit or need to put something in my life, is I look to spend on something. So for example, like if I want to start running, buying running shoes, going to Lululemon, like getting all of that side of things as well. What are your thoughts on building habits off that? Can that work, or is that not enough?
So you're saying you're making an investment into something and that will help you to value the thing more and then do it more consistently?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say that can help, depends a bit on your personality. I know a lot of people who are this kind of accumulator personality, who they buy everything left and right, and it just lays around and then they're not using it, right? So it's like, that depends. Other people, they're like a little bit more, let's say, more cheap, and they don't invest into stuff. But then once they do, they want to make the most out of it and they really use it hardcore. And if you know that you're someone who doesn't invest into things a lot, doesn't buy a lot of stuff, then that can be super helpful, because you say, hey, wow, this is an investment into my health, investment into my future. And then you buy, for example, a sleep tracker, an Aura ring, or you buy like a meditation subscription or whatever it is, right? And then you actually do use it, because otherwise you wouldn't. Then it's great. And the thing is, of course, you can get a lot of information for free or things you could do. But if you invest into something, you buy a physical good or you buy a app subscription or whatever, there's a whole different dynamic behind it because you value it more. So it depends on your personality, but it can definitely help. But it's also only a part. The other things we talked about, you should still do them as well.
Yeah, man, I love that. And the other things you talked about, like some of the people were writing notes on this, design for optimal default. I think that's fantastic. I think, so the first thing is habits and that third level. Let's talk about identity. How is that, like, what shift is made? Because I talk about that a lot. And for me being, and we talked about this when we spoke in your group, me being an athlete, like I'm still calling myself an athlete. I haven't played sports in a long time, but that's just like the natural, like who I am. Like, and that was natural to me. That was what I was. Like, how do people get to that identity stage who don't have that thing, like being an athlete or something like that? Like, how is that?
Yeah.
Possible?
it all starts with asking yourself, who do I want to become? And it starts then with a deeper level. You ask yourself, hey, first of all, what do I really value in my life? What are my values, right? There's lists out there, you can just type into Google lists of values if you don't really know what the value is and you want some prompts there. But it's just a list of values and you can just pick from there, like, oh, health, oh, freedom, oh, travel, oh, connection, oh, impact, oh, growth, whatever. There's like lots of those. And you just choose like the 5 or 10 that you resonate with the most, and then you trim it down to the ones you feel resonate with you the most, right? And for lots of guys in this agency space and personal development, I assume it's like growth, it's freedom, it's impact. It's like standard ones, right? And then you ask yourself, okay, how would my life need to look like? And what kind of person would I need to become so that I'm truly living in line with my values? And how am I living right now? What behaviors and choices am I making that are maybe not in line with my values? That's the first thing you ask yourself. And it goes into deeper and also into asking yourself questions like, hey, what's my vision for my life? How do I want to be remembered? This is something I do every year. I review that every year. There's great tools you can use. There's a great tool I can recommend your audience, yearcompass.com, yearcompass.com. It's a free PDF you can download to review your year, for example. And there you have similar questions as well. And then once you've known, okay, hey, this is my long-term vision, this is my priorities for this year, these are my values, then you ask yourself, okay, where am I not living in line with my values? And then, great quote from James Clear, how can I cast votes for the type of person I want to become? Mm-hmm. And by that he means, how can I make small behaviors into my day so that I step by step start to believe that I'm becoming this person? So let's say you figured out, hey, actually health is super important for me for whatever reason, because growing up, I enjoyed this kind of sports, or I even negatively connotation, I saw these and these family members die at an early age because of a disease. And I really think health is important. I should take care of that because I want to be there in the future, whatever it is. And then you ask yourself, okay, I want to become more healthy. It's really important to me. Now, how can I start to show to myself that I'm becoming a more healthy person, a more fit person? And then you literally start to implement what BJ Fox from Stanford, he calls that tiny habits, right? He wrote a book about this as well. It's like literally you ask yourself, what's something which literally takes 1 or 2 minutes per day? And this could be, especially if you're a newbie with that and you like really want to build something from ground up and you have not much experience with professional sports and so on. And then you ask yourself, hey, maybe I can make this tiny habit that every time I come back from the toilet, I do 5 push-ups or even 2, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Like the amount doesn't matter. It's literally the consistency that every day I do a few push-ups. And you're going to be super proud of suddenly your 2, 3, 4 week streak, because you say, hey, every time I go to the toilet or I come out of the shower, I just do 5 push-ups. And you suddenly start to believe, hey man, like I'm this fit guy, I'm the push-up guy suddenly, or I build this strong habit. And then it step by step starts to go into different areas of your life. You suddenly, hey, you're doing push-ups, doesn't fit that you eat chips on the couch all day. You start to want to improve also your nutrition, and you take your sleep more seriously. And then maybe you have a few habits there as well. And so do you see the spiral that's starting to happen? And it starts with choosing those small things which start to shift your beliefs about yourself. And then from there, you can choose other things to work on as well.
Wow. I love that. So it does start small, though. I think that even from a young age as well, like being an athlete, it did start small, like kicking the ball around, stuff like that. Like you just become this person. And I really love that. And I think that's, what's the book? not the Atomic Habits, the one that I kind of read before, I forget. The one that everyone reads about habits, but it doesn't really get into the Q trigger.
Oh yeah, The Power of Habit by
Power of
Charles
Habit.
Duhigg.
Yes, yeah. Where he talks a lot about like the cue, or the trigger cue, and then like the habit you executing on it. I really like that, like coming back from the toilet or coming back from the shower. I think that that's something a lot of people should look at doing, just that small little tiny habit. One big one that I've kind of slipped actually, and I'm reminded to do again, is walking through a door frame, is to chest up, posture back, and like posture. Like, I think that that's also very important. And a lot of people should do, when you walk through a door frame, smile and chest up posture. So you're entering a room with that confidence, and you're always doing that, and you make yourself, then you're a confident person, right? So I love that, man. This has been extremely valuable so far. I've kind of like have questions, then you answer it, and then I like have other questions. So what I want to do is open it up to the audience as well, and see what we can come up with there, because I have a few questions. So if you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comments. We'll be sure to answer them. I think one that I want to start off with straight away is from Nick. And so for people in partnerships and married couples, is it a different approach to developing these habits and disciplines as individuals or as couples? When you share your life with another, is it easier to build these habits together or still focus on as an individual? And just adding context to that, because I know Nick, he lives with his wife, and they have kids as well. So, and for me, selfishly, I live with my wife. Like, how does this work? Like, how would you answer that?
First of all, I live with my girlfriend as well, and a lot of my clients have a girlfriend they live with as well. So that's or a wife even, of course. And that is definitely something which does work. And the first thing I tell you is you need to bring your partner on board. By that I mean, don't try to I'm doing my thing here, and let's see how I can make it happen so that, I don't know, she's not disturbed or like not annoyed or anything. No, like, look, sit down, you have a conversation with your partner, say, hey, look, this is what I'm trying to do. This is why it's important for me. And this is why this is important for us as a couple, as a family. And this is how it will improve our relationship. Wouldn't it be epic if we spent more quality time in the evening together instead of slouching off on the TV and like zombies doing stuff individually? Wouldn't that be epic? And then usually, wow, it would be nice. Wouldn't it be cool if we maybe did like some yoga together sometime, or some other cool habit that we both enjoy? And then usually both parties get excited about this. And then it actually, once you've brought the other person on board, also asking them, hey, what is your take on this? What would you like to do more often? What would you like to improve as a couple or for yourself as well? And once you have that conversation, and you're not forcing something on them, but you're also inviting something they want to get out of this, you're in a team. You're on board. You're on a mission to improving things. And this is what I've seen with my clients so far. And they tell me, hey, Killian, we do now the yoga habit in the evenings. We used to just watch TV all day, but now we do like 10, 15 minutes yoga every evening. It's so much fun. And then do you see this? Like, it's just a small habit where the couple does together, and it's super nice. It's something they both look forward to. So, and then the cool thing about this is also, when you're both on board, you have also an accountability partner where you support each other with that, and you help each other stay accountable with that. It's much easier actually to have a great partner who's in the same boat and wants to do the same thing and helps you stay on track. And you help each other, hey, we said we don't eat junk food that often per week, or whatever it is, right? We said this, come on. And so once you make that and you get those rules on board, habits and routine building becomes actually easier when you're in a couple than if you're an individual.
Yeah, I love that. I think a prime example for everyone as well is, and I'll actually ask a question about this too. So I'm doing the 75-day hard challenge by Andy Frisella. And it's by both myself and my wife are doing it. And it's far easier with her, like doing it together, because if I always say this, if I give 80%, I just need you to give 20% and we'll get to that 100%. We'll do what we need to do. So if I'm not feeling the gym, she's 80%. She's like, Jason, like, let's go. And I'm that 20%. All right, fine. Like getting there. So it's a partnership with that. And it almost makes it so much easier when you have that partner. So I would definitely recommend people to get buy-in from their partner with things. But our habits are different as well. Like, for example, tonight, the workout was, for me, I did like push-ups and sit-ups and squats and stuff like that while she was stretching. We're not always doing the same thing because, you know, our goals could be different with that, but we are definitely on the same page and we're on the same team. So I love your answer with that, getting that buy-in. Anything you want to add to that before I jump on to the next question?
No, I think I said most things about this one. It's just literally ask yourself, that's the key takeaway. How can we make this a win-win? This is super important for sustainability of it. So you're not forcing anything down on them, because especially women are sometimes also, they easily could see things as criticism, like, hey, is it not good what we do or how we spend our time? But no, like, hey, it's already epic. Let's just take it even to the next level. That's kind of the mindset you want to have in mind.
That's a really good point as well, is like, and also like as men, you know, our weaknesses, we come across, hey, let's do yoga. Like, hey, come on, let's go do yoga tonight. And they're like, well, what? This is not what we do. So definitely relationship advice is go with Killian's path. Don't do what I just said. So just on that, on the 75-day hard, what are your thoughts on challenges and things like that? What do you, give me your thoughts on them.
To be honest, challenges can be a great thing for getting people started with something like that. You just have to a bit careful with 75 hard is a great thing for many people. However, for some people, you need to make sure also that you can do it. And there's a fine line between overloading yourself and your schedule is packed anyway, and you just try to make it happen for a few days and you're just running on willpower. And that's the issue. If you're just running on willpower because it's this, it's this artificially upheld commitment you have to do because you're in the 75 thing now, and because others, public accountability, you're just running on willpower. And it might work for a while. You might even finish the challenge. However, the issue is this: you want to still learn how to build habits into every area of your life. And that's what we talked about before, right? You want to know, okay, hey, I want to now, I have this, I'm more disciplined now because I have some habits that I've built by following this challenge. But you also want to ask yourself, how can I now build actually new habits, for example, in my business, in my productivity, in my time management, and so forth. So I'm actually there also consistent. And for most people, the approach of doing things step by step, having not too many things at every single one time, is the best approach. Especially if you're like an agency owner and or busy entrepreneur who's lots of stuff to do anyway, and then someone comes and says, hey, do these 5 things now, might be too much. Might be better to say, hey, I do few things, 1, 2, 3, and focusing maybe today on my exercise, and then step by step using this upward spiral to implement new things. So approach those challenges with caution. If you can make the time for it and you say, hey, I'm not too overloaded anyway, give that a shot. Can definitely work. But if you're someone who says, hey, I'm so overloaded, then approach it with the step-by-step approach.
I agree with that, because I started the challenge. It was myself, my wife, Chris, my business partner and brother, and his partner, and then someone who also works with us, Tommy. And all of them failed, losers. But myself and my wife are still going. But in fairness to them as well, like for Tommy, he was going on holiday, he was doing this, Chris was moving house. They can be seen as excuses, but you're right. This is tough. You've got to be able to find a way. We definitely made the schedule. So we wake up at 6 a.m., go for a walk on the beach. We come home, we go to the gym. So it's very much around the schedule. And for us, that, all of the habits will stay the same. So I think you're right. You've got to look at it. You've got to be realistic, but definitely, if you need that kickstart, I would recommend it. We've been going for a while here, so I don't want to keep jumping on, but I want a couple more questions. Keith asks, do you invest a lot in sleep so you perform at your peak performance during the day? I know the answer to this, but like let's touch on sleep, man. Let's touch on sleep. And just for everyone else's context as well, is Killian reached out to me back in December, and my sleep was awful in 2020, like shocking. 4 to 6 hours, and I was like, the 6 hours was fantastic for me, and I just thought that was who I am. I thought I was one of those people that just didn't need sleep, and then I slept in December, and boy, like now I can't survive without 8. So let's touch on sleep. Firstly, investments in sleep, and then let's talk about the structure and how we can make it better. So yeah, the floor is yours.
For sure, man. First of all, sleep is probably the most important productivity booster. Don't search for any tactics about, becoming better with anything in terms of performance productivity if your sleep is bad. This is like the biggest one. So do that first. And the first thing is, yes, I do invest a lot into that, and it's something which everybody should do because it helps a lot. And the first thing is this. I would say the biggest impact on your sleep is, first of all, what people underestimate is having a consistent sleep schedule. Like this is actually one of the most underestimated ones, but the most important one, which means you should try to hit the bedtime and the wake up time at more or less the same time each day. And that's like, that would be, of course, it's not always feasible to do it perfectly on the point, but let's say with the 15 to 30 minutes of deviation, more or less, that would be the best. And that means even on the weekends. However, of course, there might be now like some social commitments, whatever you have, there's like an event or something like that. And then no, it is a trade-off. It is a trade-off when you say like, oh, I'm going to go to bed like 4 hours later and so on. It's not the best, but you're doing that as a decision because, hey, I said I'm going to do that and so on. And you can catch up with the sleep. But if you can, try to keep it with as minimal as deviation as you can. So that's the sleep schedule. And the second thing, which is then also in line with that, is having a solid evening routine. If you're able to have a routine from when you end work towards actually being in bed, and it doesn't need to be a fully scripted routine, but it needs to be a transition that you say, hey, that's the time more or less where I end work. No more work after this because it keeps my mind spinning and I trouble fall asleep, for example. Then after that, have dinner not too late because that can also affect your sleep if you're eating food that is heavily digestible and it's not too easy to digest. And that's another thing. And then from there, you want to have a few things in place that help you to actually wind down, get your heart rate lower, to relax, to de-stress. There's a few things you can do from hot baths with cold showers in the end to breathing exercises, to yoga and stretching and mobility is great in the evenings as well, to some meditation. There's a lot of stuff you can do, and I always am a fan of trying a few things, seeing which one works the best for you, and then from there optimize. And the final thing I want to mention there, so that people have a few things they can get started with, is you definitely should have a time where you're not going to use the phone anymore. Because if you don't have that, chances are your brain wants the more attractive thing and the easy thing, the quick dopamine thing. It's always the phone. There's always something interesting there. And it's always more interesting than, for example, say, hey, I'm going to do some mobility, stretching, breathing exercise here on my carpet. It's always going to be more interesting. So you need this shutdown where you say, hey, 1-2 hours, more or less, half an hour even for the start. Before I go to sleep, I don't check my phone, and I have like app blockers in place to shut it down. And then you have the routine instead. Okay, so these are the first few things I would tell you guys to get started with. And that should be helpful when it comes to your sleep.
Yeah, no, I love that. The routine's really important as well. Like going to sleep at the same time has been a big game changer for me. Waking up around similar time is definitely a game changer. Now, in terms of tech, I want to touch on that briefly, and then we might wrap it up. We've been going I could go for another 2 hours. I know you could too. Tech for sleep. Why use it, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, I would actually use tech only as soon as you master the basics, because people think, yeah, I'll buy the Aura ring now, and then my sleep gets better.
No,
but no, it
doesn't
will
work
not
like
get
that.
better.
Just
It
realize how
doesn't work
bad
out.
it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And for this, it can be good because it does like a commitment. It helps you value it more, take it more seriously, for sure. But the thing is this: you want to master those basics first. It's like in a gym, right? It doesn't matter to care about fancy equipment and supplements if you're not even going to the gym regularly, right? Why would you bother about this, right?
Mhm.
So the thing is this: master these routines that we talked about, master also things like, hey, nutrition, so your sleep is not affected, daily movement, daily light, so your circadian rhythm is in line, and then also things like de-stressing and these routines that we talked about. So that's the first thing. And then for tech, on top of that, to take it to the next level, you can then definitely get those. They help you take things more seriously. Aura Ring is a thing to try. For more advanced cases, there's a Dream 2 headband. I have that one myself here.
Mhm.
And the Whoop strap, also people like that one. But with especially Aura Ring and Whoop strap, you also need to know that they are not perfect. They are just 60%, sometimes more or less accurate if you check some tests that people have been doing. So yeah, know that it's not perfect. It can help you, give you some guidance. It can help you take your sleep more seriously. That's the most important things. And it should help you to live a more active and more healthy lifestyle where you make better choices. Hey, yesterday I fucked it up with my sleep. Today I will not go to bed that late anymore, for example.
Yeah.
So for that is helpful, but don't be over reliant on tech as well.
Definitely agree with that. I think that tech, it serves as a guide for me personally. I actually wear both Aura Ring and the Whoop just to compare, and like, I don't know, it's part of me now. I always wear the ring. So I use it as a guide for me. Whenever I'm waking up and I'm feeling lethargic, I actually do check my Aura and check my Whoop to see my sleep. And it's like, okay, kind of makes sense. Had a tough day yesterday, didn't go to sleep, didn't sleep very well. So it's good to see that. So I take it easier in the gym and change based on that. And I know it's not completely accurate, but it definitely guides me. And it definitely helps me perform better. So I would recommend 100% go get the foundations, the fundamentals right, then worry about the tech a little bit later. Also, because I think this is like $400 or something as well. It's definitely not cheap. So cool. Really wanted to touch on sleep. There's some more questions in the comments. I think we should wrap it up for today. Pablo says he's at 4:50 a.m. watching this while we were talking about sleep. Nick, Nicole, thank you guys all for watching. I'm sure Killian would be happy to answer any questions on the comments or in DMs as well if you guys need anything. And just on that, where can people find out more about you and learn a little bit what it's like working with you as well?
100%. Yeah, you guys can just also add me as a friend on Facebook for sure. And the second destination is my high performing agency owners group, which you'll find just on my profile. There's a link on it. You can click that. We have actually the interview with Jason in there as well, and other trainings on sleep.
Just watch that one.
And we have I have a in-depth sleep training in my group as well. So for everybody, for free, guys, right? No question. Just join, and you can tag you there. You check the unit section, and there's a sleep training there as well. So if that's relevant for you, check out the group, and there you find more info.
100%. And I couldn't recommend Killian enough with that sort of stuff. We, as I said, like in December, you sent me that thing on sleep, and like, I don't know, I didn't pay attention too much, but I watched it. And since, my sleep's been dramatic. Like, it's just night and day. It's just ridiculous how much sleep has been a game changer for me. And yeah, I definitely owe it to you. So I appreciate that. That's all. Add Killian as a friend, join his Facebook group, but he'll be around to answer some questions if you guys need. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for joining us, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you all soon.